cabin lights were dimmed to near darkness, the kind of artificial twilight that airlines create to convince passengers their bodies should be sleeping at 35,000 feet. Most of first class had succumbed to the illusion. Reclined seats occupied by business travelers and wealthy tourists wrapped in complimentary blankets, eye masks blocking out what little light remained. I wasn't sleeping. I never slept on planes. Dominic Marcelli didn't have the luxury of vulnerability, not even at 3:12 in the morning on a red-eye flight from New York to London. My eyes scanned the cabin with practiced efficiency, a habit formed over 20 years of surviving in a world where letting your guard down for even a moment could mean death. The flight attendants moved like ghosts through the aisles, their footsteps muffled by thick carpeting. One of them, a blonde woman whose name tag read Sarah, had tried to engage me in conversation when I boarded. She'd recognized the signs of wealth, the bespoke suit, the Patek Philippe watch, the way my security detail had escorted me to my seat before disappearing into economy where they could maintain surveillance. I'd dismissed her politely but firmly. I wasn't interested in conversation or company. This flight was merely a necessary inconvenience, transporting me from one business obligation to another. Tomorrow, I had a meeting with the Volkov family to discuss territorial disputes in Eastern Europe, the kind of meeting where the wrong word could start a war. That's when I heard it, a soft, broken sound that cut through the gentle hum of the aircraft engines. Someone crying, trying desperately to muffle the sound but failing. My eyes shifted to the source of the noise. 3 rows ahead, across the aisle, a young woman sat curled against the window, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. She'd pulled the airline blanket over her head, attempting to create a cocoon of privacy, but it wasn't working. Her grief was too overwhelming to contain. I should have looked away. Her pain wasn't my concern. I'd built my empire on the principle of emotional detachment, on the ability to see people as assets or liabilities, rather than humans with feelings. It had kept me alive and powerful in a world where sentiment was weakness, but I couldn't look away. She was small, delicate even, with dark hair that spilled over the blanket. Her hands clutched something, a phone maybe, pressed against her chest like a lifeline. The flight attendant, Sarah, approached her with concern, bending down to whisper something I couldn't hear. The young woman shook her head, waving Sarah away while keeping her face hidden. Whatever was causing this breakdown, she didn't want help. Or perhaps she'd learned, as I had, that some kinds of pain were too private to share with strangers. Sarah retreated, glancing my direction. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw the question there. Should she do something? Call for assistance? I gave the slightest shake of my head. Leave her alone. The flight attendant nodded and disappeared toward the galley. I returned my attention to the documents on my laptop, quarterly reports from my legitimate businesses, the respectable front that allowed me to move through the world without constant scrutiny. But the numbers blurred. That sound, those quiet, desperate sobs, had burrowed under my skin in a way I couldn't explain. 40 minutes passed. The crying continued, sometimes quieting to nearly nothing, then resurging with renewed intensity. Other passengers shifted in their sleep, a few waking briefly before drifting off again. No one else seemed to notice or care about the young woman's distress. I closed my laptop with more force than necessary. This was ridiculous. I didn't involve myself in other people's problems, especially not the problems of strangers on airplanes. I had enough complications in my life without adding another, yet I found myself unbuckling my seatbelt, standing, moving across the aisle with the fluid grace that came from years of physical training. My footsteps were silent as I approached her row. Up close, I could see she was younger than I'd initially thought, mid-20s perhaps, with tear-stained cheeks visible beneath the edge of the blanket. Her eyes were closed, face contorted with anguish. She wore simple clothes, jeans and an oversized sweater that had seen better days. Not a first-class passenger by choice or habit, I guessed. Someone who'd splurged or been gifted this seat. I stood there for a long moment, uncertain. In my world, I always knew exactly what to do, what to say, how to manipulate any situation to my advantage. But this, a crying woman who didn't know I existed, left me strangely paralyzed. Finally, I lowered myself into the empty seat beside her. She didn't react immediately, too lost in her grief to notice the shift in weight, the presence of another person invading her private misery. It wasn't until I spoke that she registered I was there. "Whatever it is," I said quietly, my voice low enough not to disturb other passengers. "It won't hurt quite so much in the morning." It was a lie, of course. Some pain never dulled. But people found comfort in lies sometimes. Her eyes opened, red-rimmed and swollen. For a moment, she just stared at me, confusion mixing with her sorrow. Then awareness crept in. She straightened slightly, pulling the blanket down from her head, revealing the full extent of her distress. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. "I didn't mean to disturb anyone." "You didn't," I assured her. Another lie. She'd disturbed me profoundly, though I couldn't explain why. She wiped at her face with the back of her hand, a childlike gesture that made her seem even more vulnerable. "You should go back to your seat. I'm fine." "You're clearly not fine." "It's none of your business." "That's true," I agreed, which makes it even more curious that I'm sitting here. Despite everything, the corner of her mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Is this your usual approach, bothering crying women on planes? This is actually a first for me." She studied me then, really looked at me. I wondered what she saw. The expensive suit, the cold eyes, the face that had been called handsome by some and terrifying by others, the visible markers of power and danger that I wore like armor. "You look like someone who doesn't do anything without a reason," she said softly, perceptive. "Perhaps I'm just a good Samaritan." "No," she shook her head, a strand of dark hair falling across her face. "You're not." I found myself genuinely smiling for the first time in months. "What makes you so certain?" "Because good Samaritans have kind eyes. Yours are." She hesitated, searching for the right word. "Dangerous, and yet you're still talking to me. Maybe I'm not afraid of danger anymore." The way she said it, hollow and resigned, sent a chill through me. Maybe I'm already living in it. The aircraft hit a patch of turbulence, a gentle rocking that made the overhead bins creak. She flinched, gripping the armrest with white-knuckled intensity. "Afraid of flying?" I asked. "Afraid of everything lately." She closed her eyes again, "But especially of tomorrow." "What happens tomorrow?" She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible over the engine noise. "I bury my sister." The words hung between us, heavy and final. I felt something crack in my chest, a fissure in the carefully constructed walls I'd built around my heart, over decades of violence and betrayal. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it with a sincerity that surprised me. She was 23 years old. A fresh tear rolled down her cheek. 23. She should have had her whole life ahead of her. "What happened?" "Cancer. Leukemia. We found out 18 months ago." Her hands trembled as she twisted them in her lap. "She fought so hard. We all thought she was going to make it. The last treatment round showed improvement. The doctors were optimistic. But then it came back. Aggressive. Everywhere. Within 3 weeks, she was gone." Her voice broke. 3 weeks from remission to gone. I didn't even get to say goodbye properly. I was here, in New York, trying to earn enough money for her medical bills. When I finally saved up enough for the ticket home to London, she died 6 hours before my flight. I'd witnessed death countless times in my life, had ordered it, executed it, watched it unfold with clinical detachment. But sitting there beside this woman whose sister had died while she was trying to save her, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: helplessness. "What's your name?" I asked. "Claire." She looked at me through her tears. "Claire Bennett." "Dominic," I offered, leaving off my surname. Most people in my world knew it, feared it, but here, at 35,000 feet, I could be just Dominic. "Thank you for sitting with me, Dominic." She wiped her eyes again. "Most people avoid crying women like we're contagious. Maybe grief is contagious," I said quietly. "Maybe that's what they're afraid of." She turned to face me fully then, studying my expression. "You sound like you know about grief." I did, more than I cared to admit. My mother, gunned down when I was 12 in a hit meant for my father. My father himself, dying slowly in a hospital bed from betrayal by someone he trusted. My younger brother Marco, bright and full of potential, destroyed by the very world I'd helped build. "Everyone knows about grief," I deflected. "It's the universal human experience. Some people just hide it better than others." "Is that what you think I'm doing? Hiding?" Claire shrugged, a small movement of her shoulders. "I think you're very good at hiding everything. It's in the way you move, the way you talk, like you're always performing a role." Her insight was unnerving. "You barely know me. Sometimes strangers see us more clearly than people who know us well. We don't perform for strangers the same way." The turbulence increased, the seatbelt sign illuminating with a soft chime. Claire tensed, her breathing quickening slightly. Without thinking, I reached over and placed my hand over hers where it gripped the armrest. "It's just rough air," I said quietly. "Nothing to worry about." She looked down at my hand covering hers, surprise flickering across her features. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. Her hand was small and cold beneath mine, trembling slightly. "I hate flying," she admitted. "Even before everything with Emma, my sister, I was terrified of it. But I couldn't afford to be choosy about flights. This was the only ticket I could afford after sending everything I had to the hospital. You paid for her treatment? I tried. It wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough. The bitterness in her voice was palpable. I worked 3 jobs, sent every penny home, borrowed money from people who charge the kind of interest that keeps you trapped forever. And for what? She still died. The desperation in her voice, the rage beneath the grief, it resonated with something deep inside me. I understood the futility of effort, the cruelty of trying your hardest and still failing. The debt, I said carefully. The people you borrowed from, are they dangerous? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I borrowed £15,000 from a loan shark in East London. I have 6 months to pay it back, with interest. That comes to nearly £30,000. And if you don't pay? She met my eyes, and in that moment, I saw the full extent of her fear. Let's just say they don't offer flexible payment plans. My jaw tightened. I knew men like that. Predators who fed on desperation, who trapped people in cycles of debt that could never be repaid. In my world, we called them bottom feeders. Even among criminals, they were considered low. What's your plan? I don't have one. She pulled her hand from beneath mine, creating distance. I'll go to Emma's funeral tomorrow. Say goodbye, then I'll figure out how to survive. I always do. That's not a plan. That's just existing. Sometimes existing is all you can manage. The turbulence began to ease, the aircraft smoothing out again. But the atmosphere between us remained charged with unspoken things. Tell me about her, I said suddenly. About Emma. Claire's expression softened, the harsh edges of her grief giving way to something warmer. Why? Because right now, on this plane, she's not gone yet. While you're talking about her, remembering her, she's still here. Her eyes filled with fresh tears, but she smiled through them. She was brilliant, studying literature at Oxford when she got sick. She wanted to be a teacher, maybe a professor someday. She loved poetry, especially the Romantics. Keats was her favorite. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, I quoted softly. Claire's eyes widened. You know Keats? My mother loved poetry. She used to read to me when I was young. The memory surfaced unbidden, my mother's gentle voice filling our small apartment, transforming it into something magical. She said poetry could save your soul if you let it. Could it save yours? The question was too perceptive, too close to truths I'd buried long ago. I don't think I have a soul left to save. Everyone has a soul, Claire insisted. Some are just more damaged than others. We fell into silence again, but it was different now. Comfortable rather than awkward. The kind of silence that exists between people who understand each other on some fundamental level. I need to use the restroom, Claire said eventually, unbuckling her seatbelt. Would you mind staying here? I don't want to be alone when I get back. I'll be here. She stood, steadied herself against the seat, and made her way toward the rear of the cabin. I watched her go, noting the exhaustion in every movement, the weight she carried that had nothing to do with physical burden. Sarah, the flight attendant, appeared beside me almost immediately. Is she okay? She asked quietly. She's grieving. I noticed. Poor thing's been crying since we took off from JFK. Sarah glanced toward the restroom. Is there anything I can do? Privacy. And maybe some water when she returns. Of course. She hesitated. It's kind of you to sit with her. I didn't respond. Kindness had nothing to do with it. I didn't understand my own motivations, which made me uncomfortable. I'd built my life on calculated decisions, on understanding every angle and outcome. This, sitting with a stranger, offering comfort, felt dangerously spontaneous. When Claire returned, she looked slightly better. She'd washed her face, pulled her hair back. The evidence of tears remained, but she'd composed herself as much as possible. Thank you for waiting, she said, as she settled back into her seat. Sarah appeared with water and a package of tissues, offering both to Claire with a sympathetic smile before retreating. You didn't have to stay, Claire continued, sipping the water. I'm sure you have important things to attend to. You look like someone with important things. Nothing more important than this. She studied me over the rim of her water glass. Why are you being so nice to me? We're strangers. After this flight, we'll never see each other again. Perhaps that's exactly why. No expectations, no obligations. Just two people existing in the same moment. Is that what you do? Exist in moments? It's safer than planning for the future. The future has a way of disappointing you. That's a lonely way to live. Loneliness is relative, I said. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Or you can be by yourself and feel connected to everything. Which one are you? I considered the question. Both. Neither. I stopped analyzing it years ago. Claire set her water down and turned to face me more fully. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I may not answer. Are you married? The question surprised me. No. Ever been? No. Why not? I could have deflected, changed the subject, but something about this conversation, about her, made me want to be honest. Because marriage requires trust, and I don't trust anyone. That's sad. That's realistic. Maybe both. She pulled the blanket around her shoulders. I was engaged once, 2 years ago. He left when Emma got sick. He left because of her illness? He said he couldn't handle the stress, the uncertainty. The medical bills started piling up, and suddenly our future looked less bright. Bitterness crept into her voice. He wanted a wife, not a caretaker with family obligations. I chose Emma. He chose himself. Then he was a fool, or just human. Most people choose themselves eventually. Is that what you believe? She was quiet for a moment. I used to believe in love, in commitment, in people keeping their promises. Now I just believe in survival. That's not living. That's just not dying, says the man who doesn't trust anyone. I conceded the point with a slight nod. Fair enough. The cabin lights flickered, a brief surge that drew our attention upward. When I looked back at Claire, she was crying again, silent tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought I was done crying for a while. You don't need to apologize. I just keep thinking about her, about the fact that I'll never hear her laugh again. Never get another late-night phone call where she reads me terrible poetry she's written. Never watch her graduate or get married or any of it. It's all just gone. Her pain was so raw, so immediate, that I felt it like a physical weight on my chest. Without thinking, I pulled her toward me, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. She stiffened initially, surprised by the contact, then melted against me, sobbing into my chest. I held her while she cried, her tears soaking through my expensive shirt. My hand moved in slow circles on her back, offering what comfort I could. Around us, other passengers slept on, oblivious to the grief unfolding in their midst. I'm getting your shirt wet, she mumbled against my chest. It's replaceable. Everything's replaceable, except the people we love. The simple truth of that statement hit harder than it should have. In my world, everything was transactional. People were replaced all the time. Positions filled, alliances shifted. But she was right. The people who mattered, the ones you truly loved, they were irreplaceable, and I'd lost most of them. Gradually, her sobs quieted, her breathing evening out. She didn't pull away immediately, and I didn't rush her. We sat like that, her head resting against my chest, my arm around her shoulders, existing in a pocket of intimacy at 35,000 feet. This is weird, right? She finally said, her voice muffled. Crying on a stranger on a plane? Probably. But you're still letting me. And apparently I'm full of surprises tonight. She did pull back then, creating a small distance between us. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face blotchy from crying, but there was something beautiful about her vulnerability. It reminded me of a time before I'd learned to weaponize emotion, when feeling things deeply was still acceptable. Can I tell you something? She asked. Anything. I'm terrified of tomorrow, not just the funeral, but everything after. Going back to my empty flat, Emma's empty room, figuring out how to pay back money I don't have. I'm terrified that this pain will never get smaller, that I'll carry it forever. You will carry it forever, I said honestly, but it will get smaller, or maybe you'll just get bigger around it, strong enough to hold it without it crushing you. You sound like you know. I do. She searched my face. Who did you lose? Everyone I ever loved. The admission surprised me. I never spoke about my past, about my losses, but in the darkness of the cabin, with this woman who would disappear from my life in a few hours, it felt safe. I'm sorry. Don't be. Most of it was my fault. I doubt that. You don't know me. No, she agreed. But I know pain, and I know the difference between pain you caused and pain that was inflicted on you. Yours is the second kind. Before I could respond, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing our descent into London Heathrow. We would be landing in approximately 40 minutes. Claire stiffened beside me, reality crashing back in. The protected bubble we'd created was dissolving. 40 minutes, she said quietly. Then it's real. Then I have to face everything. I wanted to tell her it would be okay, that she was strong enough to handle it, but I'd learned long ago that empty platitudes didn't help. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my card. Not my business card with the Marcelli name and all its implications, but a personal card I rarely gave to anyone. It had only a phone number on it. Take this, I said, pressing it into her hand. She looked at the card, then at me. Why? Because everyone needs someone they can call at 3 a.m. when the world feels too heavy. You barely know me. Sometimes that makes it easier. She clutched the card, her thumb running over the embossed numbers. What if I actually call? Then I'll answer. You can't promise that. You don't know what your life will look like tomorrow or next week or next month. I'm promising anyway. She tucked the card into her pocket, then turned to look out the window. Below us, the lights of London were beginning to appear through the clouds, a sprawling constellation of human existence. I used to love this view, she said softly. Coming home to London, seeing the city lights. Now it just feels like returning to a place that's missing a piece of itself. It is missing a piece, Emma's piece. But you're still here, and that means something. Does it? Yes. She turned back to me, her eyes searching mine. Why do you care? Really? You could have stayed in your seat, ignored a crying stranger. Why didn't you? I'd been asking myself the same question for the past few hours. The answer wasn't simple or comfortable. Because, I started, then stopped. How could I explain that something about her grief had broken through defenses I'd spent decades building? That seeing her pain had reminded me of my own humanity, something I'd tried so hard to bury. Because, she prompted. Because I saw myself in you, I admitted. Someone who tried everything, gave everything, and still lost. Someone who knows what it means to be powerless against fate. Her hand found mine, squeezing gently. Thank you for seeing me. Those simple words, that basic acknowledgement of existence, hit me with unexpected force. When was the last time someone had really seen me? Not Dominic Marcelli, the feared Mafia boss, not the businessman or the criminal, but just me, the man beneath all the armor? I couldn't remember. The plane descended further, the pressure change making my ears pop. Claire winced, working her jaw to relieve the discomfort. Outside, London grew closer, more defined. Soon we would land, disembark, and return to our separate realities. What are you doing in London? She asked suddenly, as if realizing she knew nothing about me beyond this flight. Business meeting. What kind of business? I hesitated. The truth would shatter whatever connection we'd formed, but lying felt wrong after the honesty we'd shared. The complicated kind, I settled on. The kind that doesn't make for polite conversation. She smiled slightly. I knew you were dangerous. Does that bother you? Should it? Most people would say yes. I'm not most people. Not anymore. The plane touched down with a gentle bump, engines reversing with a roar as we decelerated. Other passengers stirred, gathering their belongings, eager to disembark. Claire and I remained still, neither of us moving to prepare for arrival. I don't want this flight to end, she said quietly. Why not? Because up here, suspended between places, I could pretend tomorrow wasn't coming. I could exist in this moment with you and not think about funerals or debt or empty rooms. You can still do that. No, she shook her head. The moment we step off this plane, reality returns. You'll go to your important meeting. I'll go to my sister's funeral. We'll become strangers again. We don't have to be. She looked at me with something like hope mixed with skepticism. Don't make promises you can't keep, Dominic. I don't. The plane taxied to the gate, the engines winding down. Around us, people stood, opening overhead bins, pulling out luggage. The spell was truly breaking now. Claire unbuckled her seatbelt and stood, retrieving her small carry-on from beneath the seat. I stood as well, noting how small she looked next to me, how fragile. But fragility was deceptive. She'd survived things that would have broken stronger people. Thank you, she said, looking up at me, for everything, for sitting with me, for listening, for not treating me like I was crazy for falling apart on a plane. You're not crazy. You're human. So are you, apparently. She smiled, genuinely this time, despite all your efforts to convince me otherwise. The line of passengers began moving toward the exit. Our time was running out. Claire, I said, as she turned to join the queue. She looked back. Call me, if you need anything, even just to talk. Call me. Why would you want that? A crying woman with debt and dead relatives isn't exactly good company. Maybe I'm not looking for good company. Maybe I'm just looking for honest company. She studied me for a long moment, and I wondered what she saw. Whatever it was, it made her nod slowly. Maybe I will call, after tomorrow, when everything falls apart. It won't fall apart. You can't know that. No, I agreed, but I can hope for you until you're ready to hope for yourself. Her eyes filled with tears again, but she blinked them back. Goodbye, Dominic. Not goodbye. Just see you later. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and turned away. I watched her join the line, watched her disappear into the mass of passengers, and felt an unexpected sense of loss. I waited until most of the cabin had cleared before making my way off the plane. My security team was waiting at the gate, their faces professionally neutral as they fell into formation around me. "Everything all right, sir?" Marco, my head of security, asked quietly. "Fine. The Volkovs have confirmed the meeting for 3 this afternoon at the usual location." I nodded, my mind only half on his words. The other half was tracking the dark-haired woman somewhere ahead of us in the terminal, carrying grief and debt and fear into a life that seemed determined to destroy her. If you're enjoying this story, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next emotional journey. Your support means everything to us. We moved through customs efficiently, my diplomatic passport speeding the process. My car was waiting outside, a black Mercedes with tinted windows and reinforced panels. The driver held the door as I slid into the back seat. "The hotel, sir?" he asked. I should have said yes. I needed to prepare for the meeting with the Volkovs, review the terms we'd be discussing, ensure everything was in place for what would be a delicate negotiation. Instead, I found myself saying, "Drive for a while. No particular destination." If the driver was surprised, he didn't show it. We pulled away from the terminal, merging into London traffic. I pulled out my phone, checking messages I'd ignored during the flight, business updates, security reports, requests for decisions that couldn't wait. The machinery of my empire ground on whether I was present or not, but my mind kept drifting back to Claire Bennett, to her tears, her pain, her quiet strength in the face of overwhelming loss, to the way she'd seen through my carefully constructed persona with unnerving accuracy. I didn't form attachments. It was rule number 1 in my world. Attachments were weaknesses, leverage that could be used against you. I'd learned that lesson young and never forgotten it. So why couldn't I stop thinking about her? My phone rang. Viktor Volkov, calling to confirm our meeting. "Dominic," his accented voice boomed through the speaker. "You landed safely? Just arrived." Good. We have much to discuss this afternoon. Territory disputes, shipment routes, the unfortunate incident in Prague last month. I'm aware. Are you prepared to be reasonable?" The implied threat wasn't subtle. Viktor Volkov didn't believe in subtlety. "I'm always reasonable, Victor. The question is whether you are." He laughed, a harsh sound. "This is why I like you, Dominic. You don't pretend to be something you're not." If only he knew how much I was pretending right now. Pretending to care about territory and shipments when my mind was elsewhere. Pretending to be fully present when part of me was still on that plane, sitting beside a crying woman at 3:12 in the morning. "I'll see you at 3, I said, ending the call. We drove through London, the city awakening around us. Morning commuters filled the streets, heading to jobs and lives that didn't involve violence or death or moral compromise. Normal people living normal lives. I'd never been normal. Even before I inherited my father's empire, before I became Dominic Marcelli, the name that made grown men nervous, I'd been different, marked by violence, shaped by loss. But sitting with Claire, listening to her grief, something had shifted. Some long-dormant part of me had stirred to life, and I wasn't sure I could force it back into hibernation. "Sir?" the driver ventured. "We've been circling for 20 minutes. Where would you like to go?" Good question. Where did I want to go? Back to my hotel to prepare for a meeting that would determine the next year of my criminal operations. To review contracts and count money and plan expansions into new territories? Or did I want something else entirely? Before I could answer, my phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Claire. I hope it's okay that I'm texting instead of calling. I just wanted to say thank you again. The funeral is at 2 today. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe because you feel like the only person in the world who understands what I'm going through. Anyway, thank you for being kind to a stranger." I stared at the message, reading it 3 times. She'd reached out, already. That meant something, though I wasn't sure what. I typed a response. "It's more than okay. How are you holding up?" The reply came quickly. "Barely. I'm at my flat, trying to find something appropriate to wear. Everything feels wrong. Too black, too formal, too alive for someone about to bury her sister. Where's the service?" "St. Mary's Church in Islington. Small ceremony. Just a few friends, some of Emma's classmates from Oxford. She would have hated a big production." I made a decision then that would have shocked anyone who knew me. "Give me the address of your flat." There was a long pause before she responded. "Why? Because you shouldn't face today alone. Dominic, you don't have to do this. You have your meeting, your life. I'll be fine. Address, Claire." Another pause. Then she sent a location in East London. I forwarded it to my driver, who glanced at me in the rearview mirror with barely concealed surprise before changing direction. "Cancel my 3 o'clock with the Volkovs," I told Marco over the phone. "Reschedule for tomorrow morning." "Sir?" Marco's confusion was evident. This meeting has been on the books for 3 months. Volkov won't appreciate the change. I don't particularly care what Volkov appreciates. Make it happen. I ended the call before he could argue. Around me, my security team exchanged glances. In all their years working for me, I'd never canceled an important meeting, never put personal matters before business. But then, I'd never met Claire Bennett before. The address she'd given led us to a tired-looking building in a neighborhood that had seen better days. Graffiti decorated the walls, windows were barred, and the entrance door hung slightly crooked on its hinges. This was where she lived, where she'd worked 3 jobs to send money to her dying sister. I stepped out of the car, my security team immediately flanking me. We must have looked absurd. 3 men in expensive suits standing in front of this rundown building. "Wait here," I told them. "Sir, we should at least clear the building first," Marco protested. "Wait here," I repeated, my tone making it clear this wasn't a discussion. I entered the building alone, climbing the narrow staircase to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled of cooking spices and dampness, the carpet worn through in places. I found flat 3B and knocked. The door opened almost immediately, as if she'd been waiting. Claire stood there in an oversized sweater and leggings, her hair pulled back, her face bare of makeup. She looked exhausted and young and utterly lost. "You came," she said, surprise evident in her voice. "I said I would. People say a lot of things. I'm not most people." A small smile touched her lips. "No, you're definitely not." She stepped back, allowing me to enter. The flat was tiny, barely larger than my walk-in closet at home, but it was clean, decorated with obvious care despite the shabby furnishings. Photographs covered one wall, mostly of Claire and a young woman I assumed was Emma. They had the same smile, the same bright eyes. "That's her," Claire said, following my gaze. "Emma, that photo was taken last summer, before she got sick again. We went to Brighton for the day, spent it walking on the beach, eating fish and chips. It was perfect." I moved closer to the photographs, studying Emma's face. She looked happy, carefree, nothing like someone who would be dead within months. "She was beautiful," I said. "She was everything." Claire's voice broke slightly. "And now there's just this empty flat and a funeral to get through." I turned to face her. "Show me what you're thinking of wearing." She led me to her bedroom, where several black dresses were laid out on the bed. All of them were cheap, ill-fitting, wrong for someone attending their sister's funeral. "I don't know what to choose," she admitted. "Nothing feels right." I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Sarah, it's Dominic Marcelli. I need your help with something unusual." 20 minutes later, a courier arrived with a garment bag from one of London's most exclusive boutiques. Claire stared at it in disbelief as I hung it on her closet door. "Dominic, what did you do?" "Made a call." She unzipped the bag to reveal a simple black dress, elegant and understated. "Exactly right. This must have cost a fortune." "It's just a dress." "It's not just a dress. It's too much. I can't accept this." I took her hands in mine, forcing her to look at me. "Claire, listen to me. Today is going to be one of the hardest days of your life. Let me make one small part of it easier. Please." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this? Why do you care?" "Because last night on that plane, you reminded me what it means to feel something real, and because everyone deserves to bury someone they love with dignity." She pulled her hands from mine and wrapped her arms around herself. "I don't understand you. You show up out of nowhere, say all these kind things, buy expensive dresses, but you also have this darkness around you, these secrets. Who are you really, Dominic? Someone who's trying to do the right thing for once in his life. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you right now." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll wear the dress, but after today, after the funeral, you need to tell me the truth about who you are." "Deal." She disappeared into the bathroom to change. I waited in the tiny living room, studying the photographs, the worn furniture, the evidence of a life lived on the margins. Claire Bennett had so little, yet she'd given everything to try to save her sister. When she emerged, she took my breath away. The dress fit perfectly, transforming her from a grieving girl into an elegant woman. She'd put on minimal makeup, fixed her hair. She looked beautiful and heartbroken. "You look perfect," I said. "I look like I'm about to bury my sister." "That too." She grabbed a small purse and her coat. "I should go. The service starts in an hour. My car's downstairs." She stopped looking at me. "You're coming? To the funeral?" "If you want me there. I barely know you." Sometimes that's exactly who you need. Someone who doesn't come with expectations or history. Someone who's just there." She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "I'd like you there. Thank you." We rode to the church in silence, Claire staring out the window at the passing city. I could see her steeling herself, building up the armor she would need to get through the next few hours. St. Mary's was a small stone church, old and slightly shabby, like everything else in this neighborhood. A handful of people gathered outside, young people mostly, dressed in black, speaking in hushed tones. Claire took a deep breath. I can't do this. Yes, you can. What if I break down? What if I can't hold it together? Then you break down. Grief isn't something you hold together, Claire. It's something you let out. She looked at me with something like wonder. How did you get so wise about grief? Practice, I said darkly. I walked with her to the church entrance, her hand clutching my arm for support. People stared at us, curious about the stranger in the expensive suit accompanying Claire. I ignored them, focused only on the woman beside me. The service was simple and devastating. Emma's friends spoke about her kindness, her brilliant mind, her love of literature. A professor from Oxford read Keats, his voice breaking on the final lines. And through it all, Claire sat rigid in the front pew, tears streaming silently down her face. I sat beside her, close enough to offer support but not touching. This was her grief, her goodbye. I was just a witness to it. When it came time for Claire to speak, she stood slowly, moving to the front on unsteady legs. She pulled a piece of paper from her purse, unfolding it with shaking hands. Emma was my baby sister, she began, her voice barely audible. But she was also my best friend, my conscience, my hope for the future. She was everything good in the world, everything pure and bright. Her voice cracked, and for a moment I thought she wouldn't be able to continue, but she pressed on. She used to read me poetry when I was stressed, call me at midnight with random thoughts about books or life or the universe. She made me laugh when I wanted to cry, and gave me hope when I wanted to give up. Claire looked down at the casket, her expression crumbling. I don't know how to exist in a world without her. I don't know how to be Claire without Emma, but I know she'd want me to try. She'd want me to keep fighting, keep living, keep hoping. So that's what I'm going to do, for her. She returned to her seat, collapsing beside me. Without thinking, I took her hand, lacing our fingers together. She gripped my hand so tightly it hurt, but I didn't pull away. The service concluded. People filed past the casket, saying their final goodbyes. Claire stood last, approaching slowly, like she was walking toward her own execution. I stood back, giving her privacy for this moment, but I watched as she placed her hand on the casket, leaning close to whisper something I couldn't hear. Her shoulders shook with sobs she'd been holding back. After several minutes, she straightened, wiped her eyes, and walked back to me without looking at anyone else. "Take me away from here," she whispered. "Please." We left before the burial, before the cemetery and the final goodbye. Claire couldn't handle it, and I understood. Sometimes you needed to preserve some part of yourself, to draw a line and say this far and no further. In the car, she finally broke down completely, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I pulled her against me, holding her while she shattered, letting her soak my shirt with tears and grief. "It's done," she gasped between sobs. "She's really gone. This is real. I know. What do I do now? How do I just go back to my life and pretend I'm okay?" "You don't pretend. You survive, one moment at a time." She cried herself out eventually, exhaustion overtaking emotion. She remained leaning against me, her breathing gradually evening out. "I don't want to go home," she said quietly. "That flat, it's full of her. Her books, her clothes, her photographs. I can't face it yet. Where do you want to go?" "I don't know. Anywhere but there." I made a decision then that would complicate everything, but I didn't care. "Come with me." She pulled back to look at me. "Where?" "My hotel. You can rest. Take some time before going back to your flat. No expectations, no pressure. Just a quiet space to breathe." "Dominic, I can't. It's too much." "You keep saying that, but I don't think you understand that I want to do this. I want to help you." "Why?" That question again, the one I still couldn't fully answer. "Because someone should have helped me when I needed it, but no one did. Maybe this is my chance to be the person I needed back then." She searched my face, looking for deception or ulterior motives. Finding none, she nodded slowly. "Okay, just for a little while." My hotel was a 5-star establishment in Mayfair, all marble and crystal and obsequious service. The staff barely blinked as I escorted a tear-stained woman through the lobby to the private elevator that led to my penthouse suite. Inside, Claire stood in the entrance, taking in the sprawling space, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Hyde Park, the expensive furniture and artwork. "This is where you're staying?" she asked. "Yes. This is like 3 of my flats combined. 4, probably." She moved to the windows, staring out at London spread before her. I could never afford a night in a place like this. Good thing you're not paying then. She turned to face me. I need to shower. I feel like I'm covered in sadness and church incense. Through there, I pointed to the master bedroom. Take your time. There are clothes in the closet if you want something more comfortable than that dress. She nodded and disappeared into the bedroom. A moment later, I heard water running. I loosened my tie, poured myself a drink, and stood at the window where Claire had been standing. Below, London moved on with its day, oblivious to the small tragedy that had played out in a church in Islington. My phone buzzed with messages. Viktor Volkov, annoyed about the rescheduled meeting. Marco, wanting to know when I'd be back. Business associates requiring decisions. I ignored all of them. Claire emerged 30 minutes later, wearing one of my shirts that hung to her mid-thigh and made her look impossibly young. Her hair was wet, hanging in dark waves around her shoulders. She looked fragile and beautiful, and completely out of place in my world. I hope it's okay that I borrowed this, she said, gesturing to the shirt. It looks better on you than it ever did on me. A hint of color touched her cheeks. I've never worn a shirt that costs more than my monthly rent before. There's a first time for everything. She moved to the couch and sat, tucking her legs beneath her. Thank you for today, for the dress, for coming to the funeral, for this. You didn't have to do any of it. I wanted to. Can I ask you something? Anything. Who are you really? And don't say just Dominic. You're more than that. I can see it in the way people look at you, the way they react to you, the way you move through the world like you own it. The moment of truth had arrived. I could continue the deception, keep my world separate from this unexpected connection, or I could be honest and risk destroying whatever was building between us. I sat across from her, meeting her eyes. My full name is Dominic Marcelli, I began, and I'm the head of a criminal organization that operates across 3 continents. If I expected shock or fear, I was disappointed. Claire simply nodded, as if this confirmed something she'd already suspected. What kind of criminal organization? The traditional kind. We started in Italy 3 generations ago, expanded to the US, then Europe. Legitimate businesses that front for less legitimate operations. Like what? Money laundering, illegal gambling, smuggling, protection rackets, the usual catalog of organized crime. She absorbed this calmly. Have you killed people? Yes. Recently? No. Not for several years. I've delegated that particular responsibility. But you would if necessary? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. I should be afraid of you. Probably. But I'm not. Should I be? I considered the question seriously. Not from me. I would never hurt you, Claire. But my world is dangerous, and anyone close to me becomes a target. Close to you, she repeated. Is that what I am? I don't know what you are yet, but you're something. Something I haven't felt in a very long time. She stood and moved to the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Last night on the plane, you were just Dominic, a stranger who was kind when I needed kindness. Now you're Dominic Marcelli, criminal, Mafia boss, dangerous man. Does knowing change things? She turned to face me. It should. Any sane person would run as far from you as possible. But you're not running. No, she agreed. I'm not running. Maybe I'm too tired to run. Or maybe I just don't care anymore what's safe and what's dangerous. I stood and crossed to her, stopping just close enough to feel the heat between us. What do you want, Claire? Right now, in this moment, what do you want? She looked up at me, her eyes full of confusion and grief and something else, something that made my pulse quicken. I want to stop feeling empty. I want to stop hurting. I want to feel something other than pain. I can't make the pain go away. I know, but maybe you can make me forget it for a while. She reached up and touched my face, her fingers tracing the line of my jaw. The gesture was tentative, questioning. I remained still, letting her decide what happened next. This is a bad idea, she whispered. Terrible idea. You're dangerous. A criminal. Someone I should avoid. Yes, but right now I don't care. Right now I just need to feel something real. She kissed me then, rising on her toes to press her lips against mine. It was soft at first, hesitant, like she was testing the waters. Then something ignited between us. Months or years of loneliness and pain transforming into desperate need. I kissed her back, pulling her against me, pouring everything I couldn't say into that kiss. She responded with equal intensity, her hands fisting in my shirt, her body molding to mine. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against my chest. I'm going to regret this, she said. Probably, but not right now. No, not right now. I picked her up, and she wrapped her legs around my waist as I carried her to the bedroom. We fell onto the bed together, a tangle of grief and need and desperate connection. What happened next was raw and honest and complicated. Two broken people finding temporary solace in each other. It wasn't pretty or romantic. It was messy and real and exactly what we both needed. Afterward, we lay tangled together, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. Claire's head rested on my chest, her fingers tracing idle patterns on my skin. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. This morning I buried my sister. This afternoon I slept with a Mafia boss. My life has officially stopped making sense. Life rarely makes sense. Is this who you are? The kind of man who sleeps with grieving women he met on planes? No, this is completely unlike me. I don't do this. Form connections, let people in. It's dangerous in my world." She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at me. "Then why me? What made you break your rules?" I brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Because when I saw you crying on that plane, something broke in me. Some wall I'd built up over years crumbled and I couldn't walk away." "What are we doing, Dominic?" "I don't know. Making it up as we go along." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I have to go home eventually, face my empty flat, my debts, my life. This, whatever this is, it's not sustainable." "What if it could be?" "What do you mean?" I sat up, pulling her with me. "The debt you mentioned. The loan shark in East London. How much time do you have?" 6 months. "Why? I can make it disappear. Today if you want." She pulled away, wrapping herself in the sheet. "I can't let you do that." "Why not?" "Because I'd owe you then, and owing people like you is dangerous. You wouldn't owe me anything. That's not how it works in your world. Everything is transactional. Everyone owes someone." She was more perceptive than I'd given her credit for. "This would be different." "How?" "Because I'm not asking for anything in return." She studied me, trying to determine if I was being honest. "What do you want from me, Dominic? Really? I don't know yet. Maybe just this. Someone who sees me as a person rather than a position. Someone who doesn't want anything except honesty. I don't think I can give you what you need." "What do I need?" "Absolution. You want me to forgive you for whatever you've done, make you feel less like a monster. But I can't do that. I don't even know what you've done." Her words cut deeper than they should have, because she was right. Some part of me was seeking redemption in her grief, in her vulnerability, using her pain to feel less alone in mine. "You're right," I said quietly. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just be honest with me. Can you do that?" "I can try." She got out of bed, pulling my shirt back on. "I should go. This was a mistake." "Claire, wait." "No, Dominic. I need to go home, process everything that's happened. Emma's death, this, you. I need space to think." I wanted to argue, to convince her to stay, but she was right. We'd moved too fast. Let grief and loneliness cloud our judgment. "Let me have my driver take you home." "I can take the tube. Please. It's the least I can do." She nodded reluctantly. "Okay." She changed back into the black dress, suddenly formal and distant. The intimacy we'd shared minutes ago evaporated, replaced by awkward silence. At her flat, she paused before getting out of the car. "Thank you for today," she said. "For everything. Will I see you again? I don't know. Maybe that's for the best. Your world and mine, they don't mix." "They mixed pretty well a few hours ago." A sad smile touched her lips. "That was grief and loneliness, not reality." "What if I want it to be reality? Then you're even more dangerous than I thought. Goodbye, Dominic." She got out before I could respond, disappearing into her building without looking back. I sat there for several minutes, staring at the door she'd entered, feeling a hollowness I hadn't expected. "Where to, sir?" my driver asked. "Good question. Where did I go now? Back to my hotel? To the meeting I'd rescheduled with Viktor Volkov? Back to my life of calculated decisions and emotional distance?" "Drive," I said. "Anywhere." As we pulled away from Claire's building, I knew I should let this go. She was right. Our worlds didn't mix. Getting involved with her would only bring her pain and danger. But some part of me that had awakened on that plane at 3:12 in the morning refused to accept that. Some part of me that Claire Bennett had touched couldn't just walk away. Before we'd gone 3 blocks, I made a decision. "Turn around," I told the driver. "Sir, turn around. Take me back." He did as instructed, pulling up in front of Claire's building again. I got out, ignoring Marco's protests, and buzzed her flat. "Yes?" Her voice came through the intercom, surprised. "It's me. Let me up. Dominic, I told you. I know what you told me. Let me up anyway." After a long pause, the buzzer sounded. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time, arriving at her door slightly breathless. She opened it, still wearing my shirt, her expression a mixture of annoyance and something else. Hope, maybe. What are you doing here? Making a terrible decision, I said, stepping inside and closing the door behind me. Just like you did this afternoon. Dominic, I cut her off with a kiss, pouring everything I felt into it. All the loneliness, the need, the desperate hope that this broken woman might somehow put my broken pieces back together. When we broke apart, she was breathing hard, her eyes wide. This is insane, she whispered. Completely. You're a criminal. I'm a mess. This can't possibly work. Probably not. But you're here anyway. I'm here anyway. She grabbed my shirt, pulling me closer. What do we do now? We figure it out together, one moment at a time. I'm scared. So am I. I don't even know if I can trust you. Then don't. Not yet. But give me a chance to earn it. She studied my face, searching for truth in my eyes. Whatever she found there must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly. Okay, we try this. Whatever this is. Whatever this is, I agreed. She led me further into the flat, and we sat together on her worn couch, our hands linked between us. Tell me about your sister, I said. The real Emma. Not the perfect girl from the funeral, but the person you actually knew. Claire's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them. She was terrible at cooking. Burned everything. Once set off the smoke alarm making toast. What else? She sang off-key. Constantly. Driving me insane. She'd belt out show tunes at 3 a.m. when she was studying. She sounds like she was something special. She was. And now she's gone. And I have to figure out how to be Claire without Emma. You start by remembering her. By talking about her. Keeping her alive in memories. Is that what you did? With the people you lost? I thought about my mother. My brother. The parts of myself I'd buried along with them. No. I tried to forget. To move on without looking back. It didn't work. What did work? Nothing yet. But maybe talking to you is a start. We sat there for hours, talking about grief and loss, and the impossible task of moving forward when part of you stayed behind. As night fell over London, something shifted between us. The desperate need from earlier transformed into something quieter, more real. Stay tonight, Claire said as I stood to leave. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. Are you sure? No, but stay anyway. I did. We lay together in her small bed, fully clothed, just holding each other. It was more intimate than anything that had happened in my hotel suite. More honest. This isn't going to be easy, she whispered in the darkness. Nothing worthwhile ever is. You don't even know me. I know enough. You're strong and brave and devastatingly honest. You're someone worth taking a risk for. You barely know yourself. She was right about that too. I'd spent so long being Dominic Marcelli, the feared Mafia boss, that I'd forgotten who I was underneath. But lying there with Claire, I felt glimpses of that person. The one who existed before violence and power corrupted everything. Help me remember, I said quietly. Remember what? How to be human. She turned to face me in the darkness, her hand finding mine. Only if you help me learn how to live again. Deal. We fell asleep like that. 2 broken people offering each other the only thing we had left. Hope for something better. Something real. Over the next few weeks, we fell into an unlikely routine. I postponed my return to New York, citing business needs in London that required my presence. Viktor Volkov got his meeting, but my attention was divided, half on negotiations and territory disputes, half on the dark-haired woman who'd somehow become essential to my existence. Claire returned to work, taking shifts at a coffee shop and a bookstore, determined to pay her own way despite my offers of help. We spent evenings in her flat or my hotel suite, talking for hours about everything and nothing. She told me about Emma's last days, the pain and the hope that refused to die even when it should have. I told her about my brother Marco, brilliant and kind, destroyed by the weight of our family legacy, about my mother's gentle hands and soft voice, silenced by a bullet meant for someone else. Slowly, carefully, we built something between us. Not quite a relationship, too fragile for that, but not quite friendship either. Something in between, something undefined. I got a call from the loan shark today, Claire said one evening as we shared takeout Chinese food in her flat. He's getting impatient. Let me handle it. I told you I can't. I'm not asking your permission, I interrupted. I'm telling you I'm handling it. Dominic, Claire, listen to me. These men, the kind who loan money to desperate people at impossible rates, they're parasites. And in my world, I eat parasites for breakfast. I don't want you to hurt anyone because of me. I won't have to. A conversation will be sufficient. She looked uncertain but nodded. Okay, but after this we're even. No more debts, no more obligations. We were never in debt, Claire. This isn't transactional. Everything in your world is transactional. Maybe that's why I'm trying to build something different with you. The loan shark, a man named Terry Cox, operated out of a pub in East London. I visited him the next day with Marco and 2 other associates. The conversation was brief and one-sided. Claire Bennett's debt is cleared, I told him, placing a briefcase containing exactly £15,000 on the table between us. Principal only, no interest, and if you ever approach her again, I'll burn this place to the ground with you in it. Terry's face went pale. He knew who I was, what I represented. Mr. Marcelli, the terms were clear. The terms have changed. Are we clear? He nodded frantically. Crystal clear, sir. Excellent. Pleasure doing business. When I told Claire it was done, she cried. But these tears were different from the grief-stricken sobs of our first meeting. These were relief, gratitude, hope. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Then don't. Just let me be part of your life. You already are. Winter gave way to early spring. London bloomed around us as our relationship deepened. We were careful, keeping things private. Claire knew the dangers of being connected to someone like me. I knew the risks of letting someone close enough to become a weakness, but we couldn't help ourselves. If you've made it this far in our story, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell. These emotional journeys are created with love, and your support allows us to keep bringing them to you. One evening, 3 months after Emma's funeral, Claire and I walked through Hyde Park. It was one of the rare moments we could be together in public, far enough from my usual circles to avoid attention. I've been thinking, Claire said as we strolled past blooming gardens, about Emma, about what she'd think of us of this. What do you think she'd think? Claire smiled softly. She'd call me crazy for getting involved with a mafia boss. Then she'd quote something from Romeo and Juliet about tragic love. Is that what we are? Tragic love? I don't know what we are yet, but we're something. Something good? Sometimes. Other times I wonder if I'm just using you to avoid dealing with my grief. Her honesty, as always, was both refreshing and painful. Are you? Maybe at first. But now I think it's more than that. You make me want to live again, not just survive. That's all anyone can ask for. She stopped walking, turning to face me. I'm falling in love with you, Dominic, and it terrifies me. Her words hit harder than any physical blow. Love, the thing I'd avoided for so long, convinced I was incapable of it. I love you too, I heard myself say, the words foreign on my tongue. And you're right to be terrified, because loving me is dangerous. I know, but you're doing it anyway. I'm doing it anyway. I pulled her close, kissing her there in the park, while London moved around us. For that moment, we weren't a mafia boss and a grieving sister. We were just 2 people who'd found each other in the darkness and refused to let go. But darkness has a way of catching up, no matter how fast you run. The call came at 2 a.m. Claire was asleep beside me in my hotel suite when my phone rang with an emergency number. Speak, I answered, careful not to wake her. Sir, we have a situation. Marco's voice was tight with urgency. Victor Volkov knows about the girl. My blood ran cold. How? Someone in our organization has been feeding him information. We're working to identify who. But Dominic, he's threatening to use her as leverage. I looked at Claire, peaceful in sleep, unaware of the danger closing in. Where is Volkov now? At his club in Soho. He wants a meeting. Tonight. Set it up. 1 hour. I ended the call and sat on the edge of the bed, my head in my hands. This was exactly what I'd feared. By letting Claire in, by allowing myself to care about her, I'd made her a target. What's wrong? Claire's sleepy voice came from behind me. Nothing. Go back to sleep. She sat up, suddenly alert. Don't lie to me, Dominic. What's happening? I turned to face her. Someone I do business with has found out about us. About you. Fear flickered in her eyes. Is that bad? It could be. I need to handle this tonight. How? By doing what I should have done from the beginning, ending this before you get hurt. She grabbed my arm. You're not making that decision for me. Claire, no. You don't get to pull away now because things are getting complicated. I knew the risks when I chose to be with you. You didn't know these risks. You didn't know what it means to be targeted by people like Victor Volkov. Then explain it to me. Help me understand what we're facing. I stood and paced the room, trying to find the right words. Volkov is one of the most dangerous men in Europe. He controls the Russian operations in London and 6 other cities. If he thinks you're important to me, he'll use you to gain leverage in our business dealings. Or worse, he'll hurt you to send a message. So what do we do? I go meet with him. Make it clear that you're off limits. And if that doesn't work, then I'll do whatever's necessary to protect you. She got out of bed, crossing to where I stood. I don't want you to hurt people because of me. I've hurt people for far less noble reasons. That doesn't make it right. Nothing in my world is right, Claire. It's all shades of gray. The best I can do is choose which shade I can live with. She cupped my face in her hands. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll come back. That you won't do anything stupid or heroic that gets you killed. I promise. Liar. But she kissed me anyway, pouring all her fear and love into it. Be careful. Always. Viktor Volkov's club was exactly what you'd expect from a Russian mobster with too much money and no taste. Garish gold fixtures, expensive champagne flowing like water, and beautiful women who smiled while their eyes stayed dead. He sat in a VIP booth at the back, surrounded by his security detail. When he saw me approach, he waved them off, leaving just the two of us. Dominic Marcelli, he boomed in his thick accent. Sit, have a drink. I remained standing. Let's skip the pleasantries, Victor. Why am I here? So serious. This is why you have ulcers, my friend. You need to relax more. I'm not your friend. We're business associates at best. Now tell me why you're threatening Claire Bennett. His smile widened. So it's true. The cold, heartless Dominic Marcelli has found himself a weakness. A pretty little thing who works in coffee shops, no less. Leave her out of this. Why would I do that? She's perfect leverage. You want to expand your operations into my territory? Give me the girl for a weekend and we'll talk. Rage coursed through me, white hot and barely contained. That's never going to happen. No. Then perhaps I'll just take her. My men could have her picked up tonight. Would you like to renegotiate our terms then? I leaned forward, my voice deadly quiet. If you or your men go anywhere near Claire Bennett, I will burn your empire to the ground. I will hunt down everyone you love, everyone you care about, and I will destroy them in front of you. Then, and only then, will I kill you. Slowly. Do you understand me, Victor? For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. He'd never seen me like this, driven by emotion rather than calculation. It unnerved him. You would start a war over a woman? I would end the world over this woman. He studied me for a long moment, then leaned back, his expression thoughtful. You really love her. Yes, love is weakness in our business, Dominic. Then I'm weak, but I'm still more dangerous than you. Remember that. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. She won't survive in your world, you know. Women like her, with soft hearts and moral compasses, they break. And when she does, she'll hate you for dragging her into this darkness. Maybe, but that's her choice to make, not yours. Such conviction. We'll see how long it lasts. I left the club, my hands shaking with suppressed violence. Marco fell into step beside me. How bad is it? He asked. Manageable, for now, but we need to increase security around Claire. 24/7 surveillance, rotating teams. If anyone approaches her who isn't vetted, I want to know immediately. Understood, sir. If I may say so, Volkov was right about one thing. What's that? She won't survive this world, not the way she is now. It will change her, harden her, or break her entirely. I know. And you're willing to risk that? I thought about Claire's smile, her tears, her devastating honesty, about the way she'd brought light into the darkest corners of my existence. I'm willing to risk everything for her. When I returned to the hotel, Claire was still awake, pacing the suite. Well? She demanded as soon as I walked in. It's handled. What does that mean? I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. It means you're safe. For now. For now? That's not very reassuring. It's the best I can offer. My world doesn't come with guarantees, Claire. She pulled back to look at me. I need you to be honest with me. Completely honest. How dangerous is this? How much danger am I in because of you? I could have lied, told her everything was fine. Instead, I chose truth. Significant danger. Volkov isn't the only person who will see you as leverage against me. Anyone who wants to hurt me or gain advantage over me will consider you a target. So what do? I can protect you. My men are the best, and I have resources most people can't imagine. But it means your life changes. Constant security, restricted movements, always looking over your shoulder. Or you walk away, go back to your life and I disappear from it. You'd be safe. Her laugh was bitter. Would I? Or would I just spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been? Claire, I choose you, she interrupted. Even with the danger, even with all the complications. I choose you. You don't have to decide right now. Yes, I do. Because if I think about it too long, I'll talk myself out of it. And I don't want to lose you, Dominic. You make me feel alive again. I kissed her then, pouring all my love and fear and hope into it. When we broke apart, I rested my forehead against hers. I'll keep you safe, I promised. Whatever it takes. I know you will. The next 6 months were a strange blend of danger and domesticity. Claire moved into my London residence, a secure townhouse in Chelsea. She chafed against the security detail at first, but gradually adapted. She even became friends with Marco, who appointed himself her unofficial bodyguard. We found rhythms in the chaos: morning coffee in the garden, evening walks with security trailing at a discreet distance, nights tangled together, finding peace in each other despite the violence that existed just outside our bubble. Claire started taking online courses, working toward the literature degree she'd abandoned when Emma got sick. I watched her come alive in ways I hadn't seen before, passion replacing grief as her primary emotion. "I've been thinking about what Emma would say if she could see me now," Claire said one evening as we lay in bed. "And? She'd say I'm insane for being with a mafia boss, but she'd also say I look happy, and that's all she ever wanted for me." "Are you happy?" She turned to face me, her eyes serious. "Yes, terrified constantly, but happy. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. I love you, Dominic Marcelli, all of you. The good parts and the broken parts and even the dangerous parts. I love you too, more than I thought I was capable of loving anyone." She kissed me softly. "Promise me something." "What?" "Promise me that no matter what happens, you won't regret choosing me, that you won't look back and wish you'd stayed alone. I promise. You're the best decision I've ever made, even if I'm also the most dangerous, especially because of that." The attack came on a Tuesday. Claire was at a bookstore in Covent Garden, accompanied by 2 of my security team. Standard shopping trip, nothing out of the ordinary. Until 3 men with guns walked in. I was in a meeting when the call came. Marco's voice was tight with controlled panic. "They've taken her." Everything else ceased to exist. The room, the people, the business discussion, none of it mattered. "Who?" My voice was deadly calm, the kind of calm that terrified people who knew me. "Volkov's men. They grabbed her from the bookstore. Took out our team with tranquilizers." "Sir, I'm so sorry." "Location. Now. We're tracking the vehicle, heading east toward the docks." I was already moving, my security team falling into formation around me. "Assemble everyone. Full tactical response. I want eyes on every location Volkov owns." "Sir, this could be a trap. They might be expecting you to come in hot. Then let's not disappoint them." The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. We tracked the vehicle to an abandoned warehouse complex in East London. Classic kidnapping location, isolated and easy to defend. "We should wait for backup," Marco urged as we surveilled the building from a distance. "She could be dead by then. She could be dead now. This could all be a setup to take you out." He was right, of course. Tactically, rushing in was suicide. But tactics didn't matter when the woman I loved was in danger. "I'm going in," I said, checking my weapon. "Alone." "The hell you are," Marco growled. "We go together or we don't go at all." In the end, 6 of us approached the warehouse. 4 would create a distraction at the main entrance while Marco and I slipped in through the back. The interior was dark, punctuated by hanging industrial lights that created more shadows than illumination. I moved through the space with practiced silence, every sense on high alert. Then I heard it, Claire's voice, strong despite the fear in it. "I don't know what you think this will accomplish. Dominic won't negotiate with you." Volkov's laugh echoed through the space. "Oh, he will. For you, he'll give me everything I want." I rounded a corner to find them. Claire was tied to a chair in the center of an open area, Volkov standing behind her with a gun pressed to her head. 4 of his men surrounded them, weapons drawn. When Claire saw me, relief and terror warred in her expression. "Dominic, don't—" "Ah, there he is," Volkov crowed. "Couldn't stay away, could you? Love makes us all fools in the end." I stepped into the light, my gun lowered but ready. "Let her go, Victor. This is between us." "Exactly. Which is why she's the perfect leverage. You want her back? Give me London. All of it. Your territories, your operations, everything." "That's not going to happen." He pressed the gun harder against Claire's temple. She flinched but didn't cry out. "No, perhaps I need to be more persuasive." In that moment, everything slowed down. I saw Volkov's finger tighten on the trigger, saw Claire close her eyes, accepting death with more courage than most men I'd known, saw the future I'd imagined with her evaporating. I moved without thinking, muscle memory taking over. My gun came up, and I fired 3 times in rapid succession. 2 shots took out Volkov's men. The 3rd caught Victor in the shoulder, spinning him away from Claire. All hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted as Volkov's remaining men engaged my team. I ran toward Claire, cutting through the chaos with singular purpose. Bullets whizzed past, one grazing my arm, but I didn't stop. I reached her, cutting through her bonds with a knife from my belt. She fell into my arms, and I shielded her with my body as the firefight continued around us. "I've got you," I whispered. "I've got you." "Dominic, your arm, it's nothing. Can you run?" She nodded, her face pale but determined. Marco appeared beside us, providing cover fire as we retreated toward the exit. Behind us, I heard Volkov screaming in Russian, his men regrouping. We made it outside, where more of my team waited with vehicles. I pushed Claire into one, following close behind. "Drive," I ordered. "Now," as we sped away, leaving the warehouse and its violence behind. Claire finally broke down. She sobbed against my chest while I held her, my wounded arm forgotten. "You came for me," she gasped between sobs. "Always. I'll always come for you. He was going to kill me, but he didn't. You're safe now." She pulled back to look at me, her hands coming to frame my face. "This is my life now, isn't it? Kidnappings and shootouts and constant danger. It doesn't have to be. You can still walk away. I'll set you up somewhere safe, somewhere Volkov and men like him can never find you." "No, Claire, no," she repeated, her voice firm despite the tears. "I choose you, Dominic. I choose this life, crazy and dangerous as it is, because I'd rather have one more day with you than a lifetime of safety without you." Her words broke something in me. Some final wall I'd been maintaining crumbled completely. "Marry me," I said. She stared at me in shock. "What?" "Marry me. Not because of today, not because of fear or adrenaline, but because I love you, and I want to spend whatever time we have left together. Officially. You're proposing? Now? After we just survived a kidnapping? Is there a better time?" A laugh burst from her, slightly hysterical but genuine. "You're insane. Is that a yes?" She kissed me, hard and desperate and full of love. "Yes, you impossible man. Yes, I'll marry you." We were married 2 weeks later in a small ceremony at a private estate outside London. No grand affair, just a handful of trusted people. Claire wore a simple white dress, and I wore the same suit I'd worn on the plane where we first met. Marco stood as my best man, shaking his head at the whole affair but smiling despite himself. "Never thought I'd see the day," he muttered, as we waited for Claire to appear. "Neither did I. She's changed you, boss, made you human again. Is that a good thing? In our world? Probably not. But for you personally," he clapped me on the shoulder, "it's everything." Claire appeared then, walking toward me with no one to give her away. She'd chosen to walk alone, symbolizing her choice to enter this life of her own free will. When she reached me, taking my hands, her eyes were bright with tears. "You sure about this?" I asked quietly. Never more sure of anything. The ceremony was brief, the words traditional, but when I slid the ring onto her finger, when she did the same for me, everything changed. She was mine now, officially and completely, and I was hers. "I love you," she whispered as we kissed for the first time as husband and wife. "I love you too, always." The reception was equally simple. Good food, better wine, and people who genuinely cared about us despite the circumstances of our relationship. As we danced our first dance, Claire rested her head against my chest. "I wish Emma could have been here," she said softly. "She was, in spirit. Do you think she'd approve of us? I think she'd want you to be happy. And you are, aren't you? Deliriously, terrifyingly, completely. Then that's all that matters." We swayed together, the rest of the world fading away. For that moment, we weren't a mafia boss and his unlikely bride. We were just two people who'd found each other in the darkness and refused to let go. 3 years later, I stood in the same London townhouse, watching Claire sleep. Our daughter, Emma, named after the sister who'd brought us together in a way, lay in her crib beside the bed. 6 months old, and already showing signs of her mother's fierce independence. I thought about that flight, about seeing Claire crying at 3:12 in the morning, about the impulse that had made me cross the aisle and speak to her, about all the decisions since then that had led to this moment. Viktor Volkov was dead, killed in the raid on the warehouse. His organization had fractured without his leadership, eliminating the most immediate threat to our safety. Other threats remained. They always did in my world. But I'd built walls around my family that would take an army to breach. Claire had finished her degree and started teaching literature online, sharing her love of poetry with students around the world. She'd found a way to honor Emma's memory while building her own future. And me? I was still Dominic Marcelli, still the head of a criminal empire, but I was also a husband and a father, a man who'd learned that love wasn't weakness, but the greatest strength of all. Claire stirred, opening her eyes to find me watching her. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Just thinking. About that plane. About a crying girl I should have ignored but couldn't." She smiled. "Best terrible decision you ever made?" "The very best." She reached for me and I climbed into bed beside her, pulling her close. Our daughter made a small noise in her sleep, and we both froze, waiting to see if she'd wake. When she settled back into peaceful slumber, Claire relaxed against me. I love you, Dominic Marcelli. I love you too, Claire Marcelli. Do you ever regret it? Choosing me? Never. Not for a single moment. Even with all the complications? Especially with all the complications. You made me remember what it means to be human. And you made me remember what it means to live. We lay there in the darkness, listening to our daughter breathe, grateful for second chances and